are back for another Talk About It Tuesday. And the question I have today, some of you will probably say, well, Haru, you've answered this question a few times. But I'm going to answer the question again because there's a slightly different spin on it, and I get why people keep asking. But here's the question. Is Bitcoin a good hedge for inflation and a store of value? So there's a very dangerous mindset that can come over an investor. And I understand why it happens. So sometimes when we invest in something that we believe in, even when all of the signs show us that it is no good, the more we've invested in it emotionally, financially, psychologically, the more we've invested in it, the more we want to find a reason, a justification for our behavior, and want to find some way that this thing is good. And I've said over and over and over, it is not good. But let's just dig into the question, because the question is Bitcoin a good hedge against inflation? Now, some people look at Bitcoin and they try to challenge me and they say, well, the price is going up. And I say there's a difference between price and value. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. And just because the price of something is increasing doesn't mean it increases the value of that thing, because you just overpaid for something sometimes. And a correlation, we can look at that with Tesla stocks. Tesla stocks are extremely expensive. But if you look at the value of Tesla, meaning if we look at the price versus its earnings, right, the price to earnings multiple, they can never sell in a lifetime enough cars to justify the cost of a share based on the true value of the company. People want to argue about the future, but mathematically it's impossible for the company to be worth that. So let's just get to this Bitcoin so we can understand. Yes, the price has gone up, but the question was, is it a good hedge against inflation? So what is a hedge against inflation? So when currency doesn't get you the same purchasing power as it did before, we call that inflation, right? So you're seeing the cost of goods and services go up, which means the value of the currency, the US dollar, is going down because it can purchase less things than it did before. So what some people do is try to take their money out of cash and they put it in something that will store the value, right? So that, and when they store the value, that means that asset has to increase in value greater than the rate of inflation. So traditionally people have used gold for that because it's a self-fulfilling asset. It's this weird thing, right? Gold doesn't have any intrinsic value, just like Bitcoin doesn't have any intrinsic value. Because don't say Bitcoin is used as a currency, because it's not. It has no intrinsic value. So traditionally people would use gold because as the demand increased, when people moved their money from cash to gold, the simple demand would make the price go up. And what people would do when inflation abated, they would take their money back out of the gold that had increased in value and hopefully sell it before it drops back down in value because the demand is gone. I'm not a fan of that. So I'm certainly not a fan of Bitcoin as a store of value or a hedge against inflation, because a hedge against inflation would have to be stable and steady. It is extremely volatile. Bitcoin is extremely volatile. Does the price go up? Yes. Does it go up astronomically sometimes? Yes. Does it drop astronomically? Yes. If we look at its 30-day return from the time of this video, it's minus 6%. So why would you try to use it as a store of value if it goes up and down and up and down? You don't know what you're going to get on a given day. As anything that's going to be a hedge against inflation has to steadily increase above the rate of inflation so that it is a hedge. And then you'd have to time it. So it's very difficult to find a real hedge against inflation. But Bitcoin certainly is not it. So I always say you can't make a bad thing good just because you keep trying. But people keep trying. They keep trying to find a reason to justify Bitcoin. But I'm still staying steady that Bitcoin doesn't have value in terms of what people are paying for it, right? It has a very high price, but it doesn't have a lot of value. So is it a good hedge against inflation? Absolutely not. Way too volatile. Is it a good store of wealth? Absolutely not. Can you make some money if you're trading Bitcoins? Absolutely. But does that mean it's a good investment? Absolutely not. So, gotta stay steady on this. It hasn't proven to be pretty much worth anything to me. So, appreciate the question. Keep the questions coming. I'd love to hear some of your comments in the comment section. You know, some of you who are pro and con Bitcoin, because I know, you know, some of you still want to fight for it. But keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.